morning, everybody. It's Tom Christie back in the workshop, and this will be session 4, the final session of carving a 2/3 size Calling Drake Wigeon. In the previous sessions, we got the head shaped up. I'm going to clean up the eyes in this session. That'll finalize the head. We've got the body ready to go. I'm going to get the head mounted, get the bird ready to paint in this session. If you're enjoying my channel, please hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's get busy. For the head mount on this bird, I want to add some strength and not just do a glue joint here, because in this high head position, head's a little vulnerable. So I've driven a screw into the head, sunk that in nice and deep where it's firm. I've drilled a clearance hole in the body for the head of the screw to go down in that pocket, and I'll fill that with 2-part epoxy and then glue the epoxy of the head in place, and that becomes a real nice anchor point to the body with that glue surrounding the head of the screw and then the screw driven into the head of the bird, if that makes sense. I'm using an X-Acto knife to clean up the eyes and just do a little bit of shaping to the opening here, so we have a little bit more of the eye showing. And I also use the X-Acto to side scrape this and get this blended in well, along with a little fine sandpaper, so that we don't have any ridge showing with the epoxy there. So those eyes look pretty good. We'll go ahead and get the head mounted. All right, I'm mixing up the 2-part epoxy. And this happens to be from James Company. And it's 5-minute epoxy, so we want to work quickly. I'm just mixing the resin with the hardener here. Then I'm going to use this to go down in and begin to fill that hole with the epoxy. So we have plenty of material down in there for the head of that screw to embed in this epoxy. And I'm letting that settle and then adding more until we get a nice fill there. Gonna coat the head with the epoxy as well. Trying to make sure there are no dry spots on either surface of the wood. And it looks like that has filled that sufficiently, so I'm going to press this in place. I'm going to have plenty of glue to wipe off. Now, I don't want that going all over the carving, so I'm going to wipe that off with some paper towel. All the way around. And then I have some registration marks on there for my head turn that I want, about there. So I'll hold that in place for the 5-minute cure, and then we can move on. Okay, that glue has been set, and now I want to trim that off with an old saber-tooth burr. This is a 3/4 inch ball nose, and it'll work really well for just removing the glue around the neck joint here. That ball nose is just about perfect for this shape. So I'm just going to trim off the excess glue and fair that into the surrounding area. I had a little mismatch between the neck of the head and the neck of the body, so this is an opportunity to blend those together so we have a good match. And I've mentioned this before, I use an old saber-tooth burr for this purpose because this epoxy, even though it's set, has a tendency to gum up burrs. I did get a suggestion from a viewer recently that said he uses acetone to soak old burrs like this and then a toothbrush to remove epoxy from the teeth. And I'm definitely going to try that, and I appreciate the suggestion, Craig. All right, so I'm going around the entire perimeter, and then I'll come back, do a little sanding before I'm going to use Bondo on the neck joint on this bird. I think that'll work well. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go with my half-inch sanding drum and try to stay away from the glue joint, but use that to finish shaping the areas on the head and the body. I'll finish things up with some hand sanding, but this will get me 90% of the way there. Just taking out the burr marks and finishing the shaping of the breast as it meets the neck here. Another thing, using the burr to get all that epoxy out of the way, it doesn't load up my sanding drum, which if I just use this, same thing with the burrs, it's only worse. It's going to load up your 150 grit sandpaper really quick. Now I'll just use a rolled up piece of old 80 grit and go ahead and finish the sanding and make sure there's a nice blend here. I'll go around the entire perimeter here, get everything smoothed out, and then we can move into the rest of the carving that I want to do. Okay, I've got that smoothed out, and now I'm going to use my little 1/8 inch ruby cylindrical bit here, and I want to carve in the tertials, so I'm using the side of that bit. And the end of this bit has grit on it, so it's great for this purpose. I'm just going to go along the edge of each of these tertials and create a little separation between them. Sometimes I score these with a knife to begin, but on this bird it's small, and I think I can just go ahead and use the bit here to clean things up. And while I'm in here, I'm shaping up these primaries as they tuck into the tertials as well, and make sure all the angles work together. Now I'm going to undercut that third tertial. And then this little section of feathers that are going to be lighter in color that are tucked into the rear of the side pocket. So this is not very deep carving, and I think that's all I want to shape up on this bird. I'm not going to try to carve scapulars. I think I will work on those little white patches on the side of the bird just to create a little definition around that, but not a lot of carving on this. There's a better view with overhead light. You can see the steps down in the tertials now, and now I'm just forming the end of the tertial there as it tucks over the primary group. And I'm just going to fade that into the back there and not leave a ridge, but kind of fade it out so that I can come over it with paint and overlay the scapulars. Now I'm going to use the edge of this bit and just go around the perimeter of this white patch that shows up on the side of the bird. And then I'm using the end of that bit like an end mill just to take it down just a bit. So there's a little bit of a shadow cast in that area. Same thing here, going around the perimeter, then using the end of the bit to remove a little bit of material, not a lot. So you can see it just catches the light a little bit. Now I'm going to round the scapulars a little bit there. Clean it up. I'll work on this and then come back. But I wanted to show you enough of the carving that I'm doing here. And I'm going to use my 1/2-inch sanding drum as well. And this works well for this purpose on these tertials, just to smooth out the grinding lines, take out any waviness in the carving, and do some pre-sanding here. And the edge of this 1/2-inch drum works really well to get into these tight areas. I'm going to paint that last tertial on, so I just pointed that out. I'm not going to carve that short tertial in. I'll go ahead and paint it. And these are the decisions you make as you go along, depending on what you want for your carving, how much detail you want to put into it. I'm just taking out some of the rough areas under the tertials there, and then these coverts, smoothing those back out so that they fade into the top of the tail. I'm going to go back to my little 1/8-inch ruby bit and just go back over these lines, and this is what it takes. It's very rare that you can make one pass and get a completely clean line, and I like to go for nice clean lines. So I'm just going back over everything one more time with the edge of that bit and make sure everything is nice and sharp and crisp. I'll just go over that and finish it up. Okay, I've got that sanded with 150 grit, the tertial work I did there, both sides. So that's looking pretty good. Now I want to use some Bondo and just put a light feather coat over that seam, and I've used acetone to wipe the seam down to remove all loose material and to help promote bonding of the Bondo. So I'll get that mixed up and then come back and we'll apply it. So I don't want much Bondo on here, just enough to go over the seam and kind of blend into the surrounding areas. So I've got a very small piece of plastic because it's pretty tight going here. I'm just going to use that to kind of bridge over the seam and blend that in. Try to make it as smooth as I can. So I need to work quickly before the Bondo sets up, so I'll be back. Okay, I got the neck joint done. Now I just want to clean off the bottom of the bird, and I'm going to use my belt sander to do that. And that makes quick work of this. So a few passes back and forth until all the ridges are gone. That looks good. After a light sanding, after that belt sander, then I want to brand the bottom of the decoy. So I heat mine up with a torch. And I had this branding iron made a long time ago. I couldn't even tell you who I purchased it from, but I think it's a good way to put a permanent mark on the carvings you make. And it always feels good to put that brand on there, because I know I'm getting close to the finish line. Speaking of which, I want to deal with this neck joint. So I'm going to use a little flame shape burr and just lightly go around the neck joint and take off any high spots. This saves a lot of time in sanding. This material can be pretty tough to remove, so the burr gets all the heavy stuff out of the way, and then I can finish the joint with sandpaper. But I'm being careful that I don't remove too much of this Bondo and expose the neck seam again, because I want to disguise that and permanently hide that joint between the head and the body. So I'll go around the entire thing and then come back. Now I'm going to use some rolled up 80 grit, and a roll is nice for this purpose because it's kind of the right shape to get in here and really blend everything together. And then I'll go with 150 grit to finish that. Now I'm just going to use Prolux semi-gloss and seal the bird with about 4 or 5 coats. Let it dry between coats, seal up the wood really well. Now I'm just going to prime the bird with Rust-Oleum gray primer. I've masked off the bottom to keep that natural wood. Looking good. I really like that neck seam is totally hidden. Good. Here's just a quick look at the finished primed carving. I'm also very happy with that separation line between the holly and the tupelo. You really can't see anything there, so that's well disguised. Priming the bird really helps you identify any remaining flaws that you need to deal with. All right. Time to paint this bad boy. Okay, everybody, if you've made it this far, thanks for following along in the creation of this 2/3 size Calling Drake Wigeon. And the carving is complete. I'm going to let that set overnight. I'll start the painting session in a few days. Let me get some video going on that, but I'll take you through beginning to end painting this bird now that we've carved it together. And I hope out of the totality of this project, you can pick something out that you might be able to use for your own carving and painting, whether it be a Drake Wigeon or some other bird. Until next time, Tom Christie signing out. Good carving to you.